Welcome in, everyone, to episode 150 of the Battlecast podcast. I'm your host, Peng, and Anicor's been replaced, actually, by Reis2Occasion himself, Chris Reisner. How you doing, Reis?
I'm good. I'm here to take Anicor's job. Not really, but I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, not really, but maybe. But my apologies. Yeah, Anicor maybe not my apologies, Anicor's apologies, but he cannot make it to this episode. He's, like he said last week, he's at a wedding in Greece, and his Wi-Fi is not as good as he thought it was. And his Wi-Fi is already usually pretty bad, so I wouldn't take his word on it that it's not great. But either way, we're going to have Rise on the podcast either way. So here he is, and it was hot off his debut as an official caster at the Indianapolis Regional, so really cool to see him there. And if you didn't watch the stream or the tournament, definitely worth watching. I thought Rise did an incredible job, especially for his first time, and then also just in general, the tournament was really, really cool to watch. But that being said, for those that do not know who you are, Rise, feel free to introduce yourself. Brief intro, long intro, whatever you like.
Yeah, my name is Chris Reisner, hence the in-game name Reis2Occasion, which I get into the story of like how that came to be actually later on, but play on words with my last name basically. And I'm from Wisconsin. I'm from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. Grew up there. I got into Pokemon Go when it first came out in 2016. That was when I graduated high school. So all my friends from high school and I played that summer. I remember going to like grad parties and we were all playing. And as I went off to college in Wisconsin, cold winter, people kind of stopped playing. So I took like a big hiatus from the game, like kind of like when your friends stop playing, you stop playing at that time. And I got back into it the summer of 2019 because I found out one of my close friends still played. And we did some like raid hours and stuff. And I realized, oh, there's like a big community that plays. And I got back into it. Then like 2020 is when I started getting into PvP. I'm like, oh, you can like compete in local tournaments. That's pretty cool. That was Sylph back in the day. And I did like 2 in-person Sylph tournaments before the pandemic started.
Were they both in Rose Cup, out of curiosity?
It might have been. Yeah, I think it was Rose Cup. Yeah.
It was the same meta though, right? So you did like just the February tournaments?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I started getting really into PvP. I found content creators like Caleb, like FP Sticks, like Zionic King, and picked it up pretty quickly. Like before you knew it, I was like just grinding out remote Sylph tournaments and had a pretty good win rate. And then I'm like, I did digital media stuff in college, so I could like start my own channel. Started doing that, and here we are now.
That's awesome. Wait, so did you were you already done with college by the time you started making content, or you're kind of just doing both at the same time?
It was my senior year, so I started making content like the last semester of my senior year was the pandemic, so it all went remote. So I had a little bit more time because when everything went remote and no one really knew what was going on, I think our professors I don't know, the workload was like lesser. Yeah. And people kind of stopped, as sad as it sounds, people like stopped really caring as much about school because it was like what's going on with the world. So yeah, I had more time on my hands. My internships went remote as well. So I started creating content.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, let's hear about the origin of your name too. I mean, luckily it comes from part of your name, because I know some people like Battle Bill or Homesite 7. I don't even know where the name comes from. Yeah, it's not their first, last, or middle name.
Right. So I was a big sports guy growing up. I played basketball and football, American football for our European
that's right
listeners. And so my freshman year, our best player's name was Andrew. He's one of my good friends from back home. He was super talented player. You could argue maybe I was our second best player. And one game, Andrew was out sick. He had like the flu or something. So I ended up having a really good game. We played in this tournament and I scored like 28 points. And our Coach Nash, had like nicknames for everybody. And I was usually just Rise. And after I scored like 28 points and we won against a pretty good team in the absence of our best player in the locker room, he's like, yo, Rise really stepped up today. Like he rise to the occasion, baby. And and then Coach Nash just started calling me Reis2Occasion, and it kind of stuck. I mean, most of my teammates still just called me like Chris or Reis, but that's how I ended up choosing that name for my in-game name.
Nice. I do recall very fondly actually that I think I used that phrase when you won the Milwaukee Grand Finals. It was like crazy back and forth between you and Doombug, and I was like, rises to occasion, and takes a
I
championship.
still have that as a sound alert on my channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably, honestly, there were a lot of hype moments I've casted, and that was probably one of the most, if not still the most hype moment, because well, we'll talk about that later too. But yeah, it was on a game 5 after the bracket reset. It was actually a game 6 because the game 5 tied, which is kind of nuts. And looking back on it, was against Dune too, which you have a lot of history with too. But we'll get into that as well. So I was curious too. So we talked a little about this actually in Indianapolis, but for those at home that are probably curious as well, were you always a Pokemon fan growing up? Obviously, I think I don't blame anyone taking a break from Pokemon Go, especially after first launch, because it was really good and then just got really dull for like years until, well, I guess rating came back a year later, but like it was pretty bland for a while, and I know a lot of people took a break because of that too.
Yeah, I got first into Pokemon when I was really young. I did karate, another Easter egg. I did karate when I was really young. Yeah, I got my black belt when I was like 9 years old, and then I
yeah. So you went to a similar kind of karate place like I did.
Yeah, like and we did like competitions and stuff too when I was really little. So it was a lot of fun. But there was a kid, Patrick, there who I have no idea where or what Patrick's doing today. But we were like the same age, and I remember he had the Game Boy Advanced with like Pokemon Fire Red. So I was like, before class and stuff, you'd get there and the kids are kind of just hanging out. And I remember Patrick was actually the one that got me like into Pokemon. So I got a Game Boy Advance and started playing. And my sister did a lot of sports as well. So oftentimes I'd be like traveling with the family, watching her go to like basketball and softball tournaments. And I'd just be playing on my Game Boy Advance, like Pokemon, and eventually like a Nintendo DS. I played, there was like a Pokemon Ranger game I liked back in the day.
Yeah.
But I remember you would like use a little pen thing to like swipe around to catch the Pokemon. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
About that game. Well, I saw, because by that time I already stopped playing Pokemon, but I played some earlier before that. But.
So I played it when I was really young, and probably stopped by the time I got to like middle school or so, because it wasn't like cool anymore.
Yeah.
But so probably by middle school I stopped, and then I still like had an affinity towards it though. Like I still liked it. It's part of my childhood. And then, like I said, when Pokemon Go came out, it was like a worldwide phenomenon. So got back into it.
It became the cool thing again. Yeah, same similar thing, right? I played a little bit like the first 2 generations, and then it was no longer the cool thing to do in school. So obviously peer pressure, I just did sports and some other stuff. Did that. But were you big into like games outside of Pokemon, or kind of like what kind of games were you into?
Yeah, I've always been a gamer. I was always into sports games. I know most people were into like more Call of Duty growing up, or like Halo. My favorite games were always a sports game, because I was pretty good at it. So anything from FIFA to 2K to Madden, I loved. I remember playing like NBA Live 05 and 06 on the GameCube back when I was really young, and I enjoyed that a lot. I was always really good at sports games. I even did an icebreaker in college my freshman year. We had like a group meet with our entire floor, and just as a way to like meet people, I remember texting, "Hey, I'll give anyone $20 if they can beat me in NBA 2K. If I beat you, I get $1." And then, dude, there was a line. There was a line of people
my gosh,
playing me, and I didn't lose a single game. I don't know if it was worth the time investment, but I made like $7 for like hours.
Hey, that's pretty good, because you could have lost over $100. So
No, I was really good, dude, at 2K. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think if I like committed to it and stuck with 2K like competitively, I could have been like a pro 2K player, because I had an online record that was insane in like NBA 2K13. I was like 105 in online ranked matches or something.
Yeah, I was going to ask you this too. So I obviously, a lot of talented athletes as well coming from that area. But one of my friends, he's always had this theory that maybe not always had this theory, but he's had it for a while. You ever hear these stories where like these pro like NFL players or NBA players, they're also like on top of being good at sports, they're also really good at video games. There's like some weird like it was like, oh yeah, this guy's actually ranked really high in Call of Duty or whatever too. But so one of my friends, he had this theory that um macro macro skill level with muscles, so like larger muscle groups, obviously like in sports and stuff, translates over to having correlations with micro skill level muscles, so like smaller muscle groups like your hands, your wrists and stuff like that, fingers, stuff like that. And because they would have a lot of the reaction times too from playing sports, it carries over to video games. But the other way around doesn't necessarily work. So maybe you have like the best Call of Duty player, they're great, on the keyboard and stuff, but or on controllers, but they can't just go and play like pro football, right, any other day. But I don't know if you can see similarities in that theory or not based on your life experiences. But
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think there's some NBA players. I remember De'Aaron Fox said he'll like one of his pregame rituals or something. I don't know if he still does it, but when he was in college, he would like play NBA 2K because it would get him like in the mindset of like seeing the whole floor and
yeah,
and that type of thing. So I don't know. I think maybe it just certain athletes are competitive and they have that same like desire to get better at sports as they do maybe to get better and be good at video games and win. So it could be something as simple as that versus like the muscle groups and stuff.
right. And I guess like also if you're like a pro athlete and you're bad at video games, they're not going to write news stories on it too. So there might be plenty that are just terrible at all these video games, even if it's like the same, even if it's like 2K or something, you might still be a bad player even if you're from the NBA. So who knows? We'll talk more about video games later too. I know I promised you all on episode 150 I'll tell about my RuneScape story, and even though Anicor's not here, we will share it later on. But yeah, that's awesome. So I've always been curious too. So you got into, I know you said you did some local tournaments too. Was it because you discovered just general PP through GBL? Because I know GBL dropped around that same time, right? That month you started Sylph.
Yeah. Also, side check, is my audio being picked up? I'm looking at
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it looks funky, but yeah, it's showing on my side, so you'll be good. Honestly, okay, cool. This software's really weird. Like if you disconnect, like your Wi-Fi cuts out and come back, it saves everything. I don't know how it saves everything. So if your Wi-Fi completely goes out, this happened to me last week, and you're still talking, for some reason, somehow it saves all that and re-uploads it later when I download the actual file. It's kind of nutty, but
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, okay, how I got into Sylph first, I don't specifically remember, to be honest. It might have been FP Sticks. It might have been him showcasing like videos, his local Sylph tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, what's this? And then I looked it up and looked on like the Sylph map of tournaments near me. And it's like, oh, I could drive to that one. I could drive to that one. So it might have been as simple as that. But yeah, I did get into Go Battle League the first season. There was a preseason, I think. I don't think I started then. I think I started the first season, and I got to like 2,900 without really like knowing what I was doing. I just kind of played, and I knew my typings. That's what I like to say is I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew my typing. So I knew if they swapped in like a Wigglytuff, I could counter with the Steel type or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I started season 1 of GBL. And got close, and then season 2 was the first time I hit the highest rank, and went from there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's cool that you say that too, because you definitely came pretty close without necessarily knowing what you're doing. I know a lot of people say that the first few seasons were like the harder seasons because they're shorter and stuff like that. But in my opinion, I feel like they were easier, and I guess maybe it just depends on where people are at in their PP journey. Because for me, it was like, there's a lot of majority of people don't even know what they're doing, and you're playing against them, right? So it was much easier to climb if you're doing Sylph before. But I think some people also think it was a lot harder because that was like their first like month or first season doing GBL, and they're facing all these people that have been GBL or like been PvPing for like a year or so at that point. So, but That's pretty impressive though. And you got good pretty quick. I was always curious about how you improved so quickly because I don't remember if I feel like I'm the first time I heard of you is when you DM me, but then it was like shortly after that I saw you like high up on the Sylph leaderboard, maybe on GBL leaderboards as well, and you never really got any worse after that. You kind of just kept getting better. But I was always curious, how did you get so good so quickly? Because like you said, you weren't like someone that started right in like December 2018 or January 2019, right when PP dropped and just started Sylph day one.
I think it was just reps, to be honest, because like I said, I started really getting into it right when the pandemic started and I had more free time at home. And I was doing like one, sometimes more than one remote Sylph tournament every single day for like months. So I think reps helped me get better. And also, shout out to like the Osmo PvP server. They used to host draft tournaments back in the day. So I would just do those for fun, man. We would like get in a Discord channel and we would have like maybe 10 people and we'd do like a fantasy draft of Pokemon and do a draft tournament the same day. And those were a lot of fun. So being able to like experiment with new picks and different Pokemon. I mean, obviously like learning a certain team is another skill and like maximizing that team. But I think also to some extent, like being able to use a variety of Pokemon and learn different ones can help. And then other than that, because like it's one thing to play a lot and get reps, but if you're not kind of like they say practice makes perfect, right? Like if you could be in your driveway goofing around shooting a basketball, but if you're not like going 100%, like how much is it really going to translate? So I think one quality maybe I have is I like to think I can be self-aware sometimes. And I told you I hit rank 10 season 2 and then rank 3, I missed it season 3, I missed it. And I'm like, dang, I hit like number 50 on the leaderboard in season 2. And how did I miss it this next season? So that's when I like took a step back. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then I looked at like FP Sticks videos and King videos and made improvements about like timing and really understanding like why the timing matters and why like energy matters and learning the counts of all these Pokemon. So I think seeking out the sources to like understand the game mechanics better, as well as just like a lot of reps.
Yeah, that self-awareness part is super important too, because I know a lot of people, even a lot of people that have been doing Sylph since day one, aren't as good as you, right? And they had like a year head start, and part of it is just maybe the lack of self-awareness, or maybe the lack of dedicating the time to learn some of these things. I'll say too, me personally, like you learned your energy counts and timing probably at least over a year, maybe 2 years before I did, which is kind of sad for me to say, but I think a lot of it was I didn't have that moment where like I didn't hit legend or rank 10, whatever it was back then. So I was like, I got complacent, right? I was like, yeah, I can hang with the best. I'm just like kind of like just going with the flow and just knowing my matchups, but not really knowing my energy counts, and felt like, yeah, I'm good enough to do it without learning it. But at a certain point, it was like 2022. I was like, yeah, I gotta figure this out. Especially when they got rid of the denials, the fast move denials, and they made everything more consistent. Because I was a frequent denier back in the day.
Yeah,
more accidentally than anything else. I just thought I was timing it well, but I was just throwing on alignment. So yeah, I think that's why I always tell people too, right? Obviously, there's some newer people. There's a lot to focus on, but energy counts and mechanics and just general timing goes a very, very long way in someone's skill level. Yeah, so that's interesting. And then you eventually, what made you decide to make content, right? I know you said you eventually did your senior year, but what was kind of the inspiration? Because I know you're in school for mostly broadcasting, right? Sports broadcasting.
Yeah, like digital media broadcasting and also journalism as well. So, because like that's kind of in the realm of journalism. So technically I was a journalism major, but I also had a minor in digital media broadcasting. So when people ask me what I studied, I usually say digital media broadcasting because that's like the field I wanted to go into.
Yeah.
Rather than like when you think journalism, you might think more like newspaper or like news. So I think it was that. I think it was the fact that I learned like video editing skills in college, and I don't know. I had two like passions, right? I had the passion of competitive gaming. I was always a gamer, and I had the passion of broadcasting, and it was kind of like it seemed kind of like a perfect little combination of getting into Pokemon Go PvP, like the competitive gaming side, and also like knowing I in myself I have the ability to cast decently, and just kind of merging those two together. I was like, oh, I could probably do this. So that was really the motivation.
Yeah. Do you remember the first tournament you end up casting? I know one of the first ones I remember you casting was a Go Team Up tournament, but I don't know if you did any before that.
Oh man, that's a good question. I I couldn't tell you for certain what the first tournament I casted was, but Go Team Up, that was a long time ago. That had to be up there. I think
Mhm.
maybe I like guest casted with Sosa Flow for some things he invited me to. Um, so Go Team Up had to be, yeah, one of the first ones. Oh, King Battle League, maybe. That wasn't so much of a shout cast as more of like
Yeah.
a co-stream, but
Right.
yeah.
Oh man, that was back in the day too.
King Battle
Just
League,
when you
yeah.
said that, yeah, I just started
Oh yeah,
remembering it.
because like when they what was that? When it would change, like the server would go down or something?
Yeah. There was also a time period. It was a Jesus incident, right? Where
Oh yeah.
Jesus G was some guy in PvP that this was by far the most craziest hack for GBL, but the guy found a way to continue throwing fast attacks when charge moves were going off. So there's like it was
His spammy Melmetal would just have like
yeah.
unlimited moves.
Yeah, there's a video of him. Man, I forgot the creator's name. Oh, JR Skater, but he made a video on it, and this guy was throwing like a million moves, like in Ultra League. It was through like maybe 10 rock size at this Giratina in the span of like a minute, and it was nuts. And he's like, "How do you get all his energy?" And because it was Thundershock, it was resisted. You couldn't really tell that he was getting extra Thundershocks unless you really look at closely at the footage. And he was getting essentially Thundershocks while throwing moves at the same time. So he always had energy for stuff. And so they had to take down all of GBL because of it. That guy had like probably 100% win rate. He was running weird Pokemon like Melmetal and Razor Leaf Leafeon, and no one in the world probably even saw the third Pokemon because they didn't get that far in the match. But
I think one extra funny part is like people became skeptical. Like I think there was a few people on Twitter. Like I just played a guy that like kept throwing like with rock slides with his Melmetal. Like, oh no, I did too. And then like a few days later, you saw he was number one in the GPL leaderboard.
It was crazy. And I don't think he had a lot of battles done either. And yeah, because everyone's like, wait, I saw a Melmetal guy do the same thing, right? And some people were like, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it wasn't intentional. I don't know how anyone could do that unintentionally, right? Like, and just apply to one account. But yeah, Niantic had to, if you want to play GBL back then, Niantic had to take down all of GBL for, it was like, what, a month or so? It was really good, though, for me personally at the time, because it was right before Sylph Continentals leading up to Sylph Worlds that season. So I was like, oh, this is a good time for me to practice just scrims with friends instead of like worrying about doing all my GBL sets every day too, which I stopped doing all those every day. But back then it was like I did do every battle of GBL every single day. And yeah, that was wild times. But yeah, and okay, yeah, I feel like you were doing casting. Like, have you always had an interest in doing commentary? Because obviously you were like one of the best players as well at the time. So obviously part of it's like, yeah, you want to be the best, you want to win stuff. But I feel like you've always had a strong passion for commentary as well. Maybe almost similar to like Butters and Speedy. Me personally, like I didn't really have that passion back then until I started doing it officially. But I would just do it once in a while if someone asked me. Especially it's like usually like Silph it's like, hey, you want to do it? I was like, well, I've been knocked out a while ago, so yeah, sure, why not? Like I got nothing else better to do. But what about you too? Did you think like you always want to do some of that commentary back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, from a young age, I wanted to be like a sport. Like at first, I wanted to be in the sports media because I enjoyed those like debate shows where like Stephen A. Smith would go back and forth and stuff. They'd argue who's the GOAT, LeBron or MJ. But then as I got a little older, I was like, I don't know, some of these debate shows, it seems like they're just coming up with like these hot takes and maybe it's not as substantive. So then as I got a little older, I wanted to pursue sports broadcasting. And one reason I chose Marquette University, not to like plug my university here, but when I did orientation, they like, because I only looked at a few schools, and one school I looked at was Syracuse because they're like super well known for broadcasting.
Yeah.
They produce a lot of like famous broadcasters. So I toured there, and it just seemed like super, super competitive because everyone wants to go there to pursue sports broadcasting versus Marquette. They had that sort of environment where they had like state of the art, like studio and everything, but it wasn't quite as competitive. And they preached like, for Syracuse, it was like, yeah, the juniors and seniors kind of run things around here. And then Marquette, it was like, yeah, we want to get you involved right as a freshman. So that really like stood out to me. Plus, it was close to where I grew up, and I got involved as a freshman, just like volunteering for like our student show. And by the time I was a sophomore, I was already like calling games. So basketball, volleyball, soccer, and eventually lacrosse. Basketball, I already knew really well. I played it my whole life growing up, so I felt comfortable doing that. And then the other sports, just kind of learning and going. So yeah, sports broadcasting was like always something I wanted to pursue. So obviously it's a little different with Pokemon Go, esports, but there's definitely like a carryover there.
Yeah, definitely. I talked a lot with Butters about this too, and he shared similar thoughts in like the similarities as well, covering, between the two. And honestly, I think people with more of a sports, broadcasting background, it could do a lot of good for esports too, right? Because some esports people, if they came just from gaming, they might not know, certain approaches to broadcasting or commentary. They're just watching stuff from what they know from watching other esports. But there's a lot of things that, sportscasting in general, it differs, and they could definitely overlap and carry over. So that's really cool to see. So what did they do during the pandemic? Because obviously you probably weren't doing any commentary for sports games anymore, right?
Yeah, sports, like everything got postponed, canceled for a while.
Yeah.
So I commentated a few games like pretty close to when everything got shut down. I remember my friends and I went on a road trip for spring break, and it was literally like, so we took a road trip down to Florida, Jupiter, Florida, which was a lot of fun. And when we went down there, like everything was fairly normal. You heard like the kind of the talk on COVID. I don't know if that word gets like, anyway.
Yeah, you're fine to say it.
Okay. But everything was like kind of normal as we went down there. And by the time we got back, because like we were down there for a full week, and on a Wednesday is when the NBA shut down. And I had an internship at the time with the Bucks. So I remember telling my boss, like, hey, I'm going to have to miss a few games, like coming up in a few months. I'm going on a road trip with my friends. And he's like, okay, sounds good. Thanks for letting me know. And I didn't end up missing any games because the season got postponed anyway. So by the time we got back, we had planned to stop in Louisville, Kentucky for a night, just to like break up the drive. And it was a ghost town. Like there was no one because everyone was scared, didn't know what to expect. So yeah, everything got, all the sports got postponed for a while.
Yeah, I figured. Well, hey, more time for Pokemon Go, so it ended up working out that way. So obviously you played in a few tournaments when Sylph was around for like, I guess 2 in that February 2020, but then nothing outside of online stuff until the championship series dropped. And you went to every tournament, right, that first season in North America? I know you didn't compete in NAIC because you already won, but you competed in Indianapolis, Vancouver, and then Milwaukee. Were those the only 3? Yeah, those were only 3, right?
Yeah, I did. Indianapolis, not too bad of a drive from Milwaukee, maybe like 4 hours, 5 hours. And then Vancouver was expensive, but I was with like an esports team at the time that helped cover the cost. So that was nice of them.
Yeah.
And then Milwaukee, literally like slept in my own bed, drove 25 minutes. So that was nice. And then because I was able to win, I ended up not competing in NAIC. Like you said, I think back then, because it was only like the top few spots qualify, and there was like, there was only so many limited opportunities. It wasn't as like accepted back then to like for a winner to compete again. So I think if I had competed at NAIC, it would have been like a bad look. Like, he's already qualified. What's he doing? Now
Yeah.
that it's like a championship point system, it's pretty normal. And I don't think anyone like, I don't think there's probably a very small percentage of people that's like, oh, he's already got this many championship points. Why is he competing again? Because it's like the norm in the other games. Like, you have to keep competing, basically.
Yeah. I mean, back then they had the trickle down too, though. But I guess I don't know. I guess no one else did it, right? So you didn't want to be the guy to do it and be like the bad guy in a way. But
yeah.
Well, I mean, looking back on it, I mean, what, there was 3 tournaments and then NAIC, so a total of 10 spots for Worlds from North America, if that's correct. That's pretty wild. That and then obviously there's a seniors division too, right? But just for who do you call it, the Masters division, that's not a lot of spots. So to be one of 10 representing at Worlds that year is pretty nuts. But yeah, what was your thought going into that championship series? Because obviously, you're planning on going to NAIC too, but I'm assuming every tournament you didn't get that 1 or 2 spot or whatever, you're probably feeling, oh, I only got a few more chances left, right?
For sure. I think I went in with a mindset of the first 2, like not wanting to put the pressure on myself. I think I went in with almost too much of we're just here to have fun. If it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. So whatever happens, happens. And I did pretty well in the first one because I lost early. I lost to Dan the Man. Mm-hmm. And then I went on a crazy losers bracket run in like a really stacked group. I had to go through like Kevin Saludaris, Dunebug. Dunebug, the best player in the world, actually went 0-2 in that tournament because he played. Yeah, he went 0-2. And then I ended up like going on a pretty nice run before getting to losers finals and then losing. And then I didn't do very well in Vancouver. I went 3-2 maybe, and I lost to King Duck's Pool, who had an Obstagoon that totally core broke my team. And then he also beat Dunebug with his Obstagoon. So Dunebug and I came up with the same idea separately of running Obstagoon in Milwaukee, and we had Megan in the finals. But then my mindset totally shifted for Milwaukee. I was like, man, I've got potentially only 2 tournaments left. Like, and then NAIC is going to be so tough with so many people coming.
Right.
So this is like my best chance to qualify for Worlds. So I prepped like crazy for Milwaukee. I prepped for like 3 weeks, scrimming every single night, went through a bunch of team iterations, and had the Obstagoon idea that I was building around. And I had a cool strategy of like Obstagoon plus a ton of things that beat Metacham, Trevenant, Sableye, Charm 9, Azumarill. So like 4 things that
Nidoqueen maybe. What was the last?
It was G-Fisk.
Okay, yeah, stuff like that.
So like so Medi had 2 targets, then like 4 things that lost to, and like hard lost to with some of them. So so it was a cool team strat because back then it wasn't uncommon for people to run like double ghost, like Sableye, Trev, maybe Lickitung, maybe a steel type. So Obstagoon was really tough for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and
it worked out really well. And I went in with a different mindset too. Instead of like, you're just here to have fun, whatever happens, happens. I put on like almost like a cocky, like arrogant mindset. I was like you're the best player here, like you're gonna win. And I kind of got that from I'm a UFC fan. I mentioned to you, there's a fighter named Rose Namajunas. She's a former champion, and there's a clip of her. I think she's fighting Zhang Wei Li in the UFC championship, and she's like, and Bruce Buffer, the announcers announcing her like in the red corner or whatever, and then they zoom in on Rose, and Rose is just going, I'm the best, like stone faced, I'm the best, I'm the best, and she goes on and she wins the championship as an underdog against Zhang Wei Li. So even if it wasn't true, like I wanted to like give myself that mindset, like I'm the best, I'm gonna win this, and it worked out. So I think it's something maybe I need to try to adopt more today because I think I find myself today like, damn, like there's all these amazing players like that I have to go against. It's going to be tough. So maybe it's something a mindset I should try and adopt again next time I compete.
Yeah, that Milwaukee tournament was really cool too. It was the first North America tournament I ever commentated because I had only done EUIC right before that. But it was pretty wild too. It went to you were on the winner side. You beat Bird Power, who first time we saw Bird Power, right? And we're like, wait, like she could definitely put up some reps against some of the best players too, because she was coming from the seniors division. She was just like, hey, I won seniors. I'm just here to have fun, I guess, and play masters, which like kind of a weird like I didn't even know that was like possibly even a thing, right? Like it was just like I don't know if that's like these days. I mean, we don't have two divisions, but even if we did, like if that's kosher or not to do. But I at the time there weren't many people she had to beat in Milwaukee, so I guess the seniors division somehow wrapped up before Masters even started, and she just entered in and made it all the way to top three. But and then you had this crazy back and forth versus Doombug in that grand finals. Did he 3-0 you in the first series? Was that what happened?
Yeah, he swept me, and I had only lost like a couple of games all tournament. So
yeah,
he swept me, and I remember we had similar teams, but his Shadow Nidoqueen gave me real problems because I had Obstagoon, Azu, Charm 9, and Trevenant. So like my only real answers were Sableye and G-Fisk, and even those as like counter swaps are not the best. So he just like freely swapped that Shadow Nidoqueen sometimes, and it gave me some real issues and took a while to figure out. And I really needed alignment to win games in that series.
Yeah, I mean, and then coming back in the grand finals, and it was like a 3-2-1, right? Because it was 2-2, and then ties on the fifth game, which is crazy, of the final possible game. And for anyone that hasn't seen that tournament, definitely worth checking out. It's definitely on the YouTube VODs for Pokemon. If you just search Milwaukee 2022. But I remember I was commentating that with Teal Butters, and man, I'm just glad that me and Butters got to commentate that grand finals. I'll just say because it was a ton of fun just watching it too. And it looked rough on the first series, but then when it started going back and forth, that's when I mean those are fun games for maybe stressful games for the players, but it's a ton of fun for viewers and commentators to see as well. And then
it was it was all time because I was teammates with Dune at the time, and even before like everything he's done recently, where I think a lot of people consider him like the best player, I considered him the best player because he was fresh off his Sylph dominant season where he had like an 87% win rate and then won the Sylph World Championship. So back then I considered him the best player, and to go down 3-0 to lose, I was down 2-1 in the next set, so I had lost 5 of 6 games, and then to find a way to like stay composed and win was really cool for me in my hometown as well. We ended up hosting like a little after party with other players at my dad's cottage afterwards. So it was one of the best days ever for me. And like I was able to win a regional again later on, but unless maybe I do something like greater than a regional like that, I think that'll be like my most proud moment as a competitor ever.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to bring up old issues, but you definitely had the crowd's favor on that one too. It was shortly after Doombug. It was a kind of a famous dispute against Bird Power after he brought the wrong Registeel, and ended up getting a rematch and kind of beating her in that losers finals. The crowd was definitely cheering for you. I gotta say that, both probably in person and the online crowd. So I don't know how things would have went down if he did win that one. I think for the betterment of the tournament result, for you winning it as well as for him as well, because I feel like he definitely got a lot of harassment, both maybe not in person but online harassment over that issue. Which no point in doing that now. But if he won the whole thing, I think it would have looked even worse. But at that point, at least you both had qualified world championships, right? So you already knew you're going to worlds. But besides just the travel wars, there's always, as a competitor, you always want to fight for more and just get that first place.
And on that note, and like in regards to Dune, I think most people agree, like maybe that dispute wasn't in best fairness, and you can attribute the whatever to like multiple factors, but it's good to see him like learn from that, and I think over the years become a little bit more self-aware, where I think there's been moments since that where like he could have disputed certain things where he's kind of let them go, and not that like you should be forced to do that. Like if you think there was something that was unfair, by all means like dispute it, have the judges look at it, ask for a review. But it's good to see Dune like come back from that, because he did get a lot of harsh criticism, and I think he's a lot more like self-aware now. And also, like, we were talking with him when we got to Indianapolis, um someone came over, and it's me, Caleb, and Dune standing next to each other, and like, hey, like, are you Dunebug? Can I get your autograph? So so I was like, oh yeah, let's go, Dune, let's go, man.
Yeah, it was pretty dope. Yeah, I mean, even most recently too at EYC, I remember it was in the grand finals. There was like some lag versus him and Emi, and it was on Emi side, and they both agreed to the rematch, obviously, because very clear lag, and he could just ran a different team doing like hard loss lead, and he just ran it back exactly the same way, right? And he didn't have to do that. That's not in the rules. You could do whatever you want. Like, you could just bring a whole different line, but and at a grand finals, when he's coming in from the loser side too, you could tell that, the Dune's grown from that incident and chose to go with a more sportsmanship route that he didn't even need to take in that situation. But speaking of Dune too, as I'm looking at your world's results from the first year, you actually 2-0'd him in that one. But I didn't even realize too, you went down to Godan Hada, which was the runner up of Worlds right in round one, which is kind of nuts, right? Like, tell me about that first Worlds experience in London. Have you been to London prior to that too? Or I know you've studied abroad a few times, but
right. Yeah, I had actually been there once with my dad on a vacation, and so it was my second time there. And I look at the bracket, I see Godan Hada round one, and I wasn't familiar with him. I wasn't familiar with his game.
Yeah, who was?
And dude, he walks up to me, and he's like, hi Rise, like, nice to meet you. Like, it's an honor to play you. Big fan of the channel. And I'm like, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. And dude, he outplayed me so hard. Like, I won lead both games, and both games he had to dance around and bait and like at the last second find a win condition. Like, I had favorable alignment both games. I think I led like Charm 9 into Altaria, and he danced around. Wow. And then I led like Swampert into like Shadow K9, and he ended up in the end game like baiting me with Weather Ball and landing an overheat to knock out my dude. He like played literally perfect to a T, and I was like, oh my god, like, what have I gotten myself into? But yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see like that his performance get validated, getting all the way to the finals on the winner's side, and had an epic series against Rob. But that was kind of crazy, and you gain a whole respect because you're used to all these names from NA, maybe like Dunebug and others, but you see a player that I had never heard of from South Korea just be so skilled. And then I went on a nice losers bracket run, was able to beat Dunebug. I think our games were a little RPS. I think I had like pretty favorable alignment in those games, and then ended up losing to Lurkin Rocket on day 2.
Yeah, this meta was crazy. In my opinion, still my favorite meta today. I mean, if you're looking at the matchups, obviously it was early on PP, so maybe people wouldn't run the same thing. But that one player he played towards the end, right before Lurkin Rocket, Danky had a Raquinid, a Macargo.
Dude,
it was wild. And
does it show the teams at what you're looking at?
I'm okay on Draco as it does, yeah. So
his Araquanid gave me problems too. I was afraid of that Araquanid.
Yeah, it was very strong.
Wall Rain, Obstagoon,
Swampert.
It was a problem for my team.
That's yeah. Did you see the Macarco at all or no?
Oh yeah.
He actually brought it.
Oh no.
Okay. In your matches, I don't know. It wasn't on stream, unfortunately, so we can't.
I don't think he did. No, I don't think he did, which surprised me because I like almost had to bring the A9, the Charm 9 for the Araquanid.
Yeah.
So I was afraid of the Macargo a little bit too, but I had a lot of Macargo answers, so maybe it scared him off.
Yeah, definitely. Man, that meta was wild. I kind of miss it, but it is what it is. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't see you on stream at all because I saw going into day number 2 that you were on the list of players. I was like, oh, okay, like maybe we'll get some Rise on stream, and then unfortunately they didn't feature you. You're just playing all your matches off stream. But what were your thoughts after that Worlds? Right, I know you finished tied for 9th, which is still a great accomplishment, but you know, as a competitor, maybe you're hoping for more.
Yeah, I mean, I was still high off that Milwaukee run. That wasn't like that long before that, so. I had a lot of confidence going in, and if I played better, both matches I lost in that tournament, I like could have won if I played better. So in a sense, you're like, you wish you could have played differently, but you also understand, like, I'd almost rather that happen than just get RPS'd. I don't know. It's like, it's a weird way to think about, because you could also think about the way like, oh, I got RPS'd, it was out of my control. But I'd almost rather get outplayed than get RPS'd, knowing like I could have won if I played differently. The match against Lurgan, yeah, I think the decisive game basically came down to like calling what was in the back, and I just kind of came in with the wrong thing. I came in like with my Trev earlier than I should have. If I'd like come in with A9 and save the Trev for the Crest, I would have been better. Right. But it's funny. It's kind of fun. Sometimes I hate to compare us to like chess players, because I don't know, chess players might be insulted, but
they'll get over it.
It reminds me of chess, where like chess players who can like recall a game from years ago, and like we can recall a game from years ago, like how it played out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I felt similarly in terms of when I first started playing Sylph. Every tournament, I mean, these weren't like world championships. This is like a monthly Sylph tournament. Every tournament I lost in, I remember vividly on why I lost and like who I lost and what I could have done differently too. And it was always against my local league Chaotic Ace, who's actually teammates with me now on the Cool Cats. But I would always, it didn't matter when it happened. Every tournament, if I lost once, and I usually did, it was just to him, which was like, that rivalry was rough. I remember the first time I did finally beat him, I was like so ecstatic. It was like round one, because this was early on in Sylph. It was before you start playing, but the first season of Sylph, it was until maybe like right before regionals. Yeah, it was actually right before their regionals for Sylph. The seeding was really funky, because they were a new system too, right? So they probably didn't realize. But they would seed 1 seed with 2 seed, 3 seed with 4 seed, etc. Like round one, right? That's how they paired it, instead of like one with like the middle seed or bottom seed. But people didn't realize, because the first tournament no one had any seeding. And then as it goes on, you get closer and like it get earlier and earlier when you start facing like the best player, if you're like one of the best players as well in the tournament. So I remember like in our April Cup, it was really, my first opponent was the best player in the tournament. It was like, I was like so stressful. Like, what? Like round one. And then after I beat him, round two, it was the second best player. So it was like super weird, where like my first 3 matches were by far the hardest. And they just got easier and easier as went along, which was kind of,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad they fixed that though. They fixed it right before regionals too, thankfully. But
and then to like actually answer your question about like how I felt after, it was a lot of fun. Like I was still proud with the finish. It was a smaller tournament, so tying 9th is cool. I could technically say like top 10 in the world, if I wanted to phrase it that way.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and just like hanging out with everybody after, and just getting to kind of like take a deep breath, spectate the top 8 of the world championships. And remember sitting next to Pocket, and we just kind of enjoyed it. I got to meet Zionic for the first time, and meet some others from EU. So that was cool. So I had a fun time with it after. Made it into like a little trip, did some traveling after, saw Amanda Lundberg and some others in Brussels. So that was fun.
That's awesome. And then coming into the second season too, your first one was Arlington, which was definitely, I wouldn't say later side, but I was actually surprised you didn't compete prior to that, right? Because there were a few tournaments before that.
Yeah, I took some time off because, as you said, I attended every one in that shortened first season. So that was kind of a grind. So I decided like take some off for the next season, like kind of see what people are running and see the meta play out a little bit before I hop back into it.
Yeah. And then as fate would have itself, you faced Doombug yet again in the losers finals, right? And that was kind of a back and forth series. But somehow you both brought Obscune again in that same meta. But yeah, you're up 2-0, and then Doombug reverse swept, unfortunately, in that way. And that was on the old system where, only top 2 gets the invitation. But how did that feel? Oh, I'm looking at Onion Frank's team too, because I was looking at your record. Man, that was a while. He actually ran Bastion Shadow Vic, but ran well too. He was
he used to always run that for several tournaments before he switched to more like not Basti Shadow Vic teams.
Skill oriented teams.
But yeah, no, that was a tough loss. Like I was up 2-0, and when I beat Dunebug in Milwaukee, I felt like I had a team disadvantage. And this time I had a team advantage. My Obstagoon was like completely unchecked against his team.
Yeah.
And I went up 2-0 with like basically Altaria. Obstagoon core was super good. And I had game 3. Like I literally had it and I just overthought it. There's a play that I break down. Like I did a recap stream after, where one of my biggest pet peeves with the game is sometimes when you try to wait a turn to like avoid them from catching, the screen will stop visually updating. So if you slow it down, I wait for him to catch and the screen stops visually updating because he's already in with his Trevenant doing like a or no, he's already in with his Obstagoon. It was my Obstagoon versus his Trevenant, and I'm expecting him to catch onto something. So I wait. And as I'm waiting, if you look at his point of view and like freeze frame it, he's already done a counter with his Obstagoon, and I still see the Trevenant. So he's able to catch my Night Slash onto his Obstagoon, which then allows him to like not have to shield and get to a move against my Obstagoon. And that was really pivotal in that game. And what's crazy is even after that play, I still had win conditions and I came in with like the wrong thing because I was calling the wrong thing in the back. So it was like everything went wrong in game 3 to lose and to keep him alive. And like against a player of his caliber, like you can't afford to give him a free game.
Yeah.
And then he was just straight up able to beat me in the next 2 games. So like what should have been a 3-0 in my opinion, I gave him a lifeline, and then he took that lifeline and he won the next 2 games. So that was a pretty brutal loss, especially since the like you said, the Worlds invites were still top 2 finishers, and that was my first. So would have been cool, like first competition of the season, get top 2.
Right.
But yeah, it happens, and that was like maybe I should give. Maybe Dune has to give me credit for his insane, insane accomplishments now, because like I remember he said in his Arlington interview, like, yeah, I was able to beat Rise. Like he's had my number and I finally got past him because I had beaten him like the previous 3 times. So
yeah, Vancouver, Milwaukee, and Worlds.
So yeah, maybe I gave Dune the confidence. My throw gave him the confidence to become the undisputed best player in the world.
I mean, kidding. Probably disputable to a degree, but some would say, most would argue probably not.
Right.
Yeah. And then I remember fondly too, you were in Orlando. I wasn't commentating this one, but you made it to Top Cut as well. And it was game number 1. You had the game. And then unfortunately threw a shadow ball at J-Bills, which looking back on it was a pretty hilarious moment, but I'm sure not for you because you know, it was a tough one, but it was a knockdown mirror and you had to move. But it was weird because you clicked the shadow ball, but I think you lost charge attack priority, so it didn't come up right away. And then you thought you went back for a sky attack, but it already like registered the shadow ball or something.
Right.
Like that, right. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was my first time running Noctowl, and I had just built the rank 1. I had previously been running a different one in like GBL. So I had just built that one for the tournament and the moves were flip-flopped. And the situation was I had to throw right away because he had 2. So he had back-to-back sky attack. So I had to throw right away. If I don't throw right away, I already knew I lost charge attack priority.
Yeah.
So he would be able to throw 1 and then win charge attack priority.
Yep.
So at first I was like going to try and wait and react because in the moment I'm like, I forget which side it's on. I was consciously aware. I wasn't thinking it's on this side, like tapping confidently. I was like, I forget which side it's on. So I was going to try and wait, but then I didn't want to like have the situation.
Wait, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to have the situation where I don't react quick enough and then I just lose. So I went to one side and it was the wrong side. And, I actually say through the mic, I think we might have still been, we were still wearing masks at that time.
Yeah.
And I say through the mic, like, I threw the wrong move. And he's like, what? He's like, I'm like, I threw the wrong move. And funny enough, after that, game 2, I actually had a win condition. And I think that got in my head from the first game. I had a win condition in the end game. I could have gone for double sky attack against a G-Fisk, which probably would have been enough. But I didn't want to like look like an idiot throwing the wrong move again. So I went for the shadow ball instead, and he like barely hangs on to the shadow ball and gets off the move. So like I think double sky attack would have done more than one shadow ball. But
it did. Yeah, I remember watching that too, and I was like, man, Rise is rusty. Like something's going on. like Dune messed him up in Arlington. But no, that was a pretty funny moment for everyone else, I think. But I remember watching. If you look at the reactions, J Mills looked more stressed than you did for some reason after he got hit with the shadow ball. But it was
he was a really good sport about it too. Because I don't know. Some players might have just like laughed at me or like celebrated, but he was like, "Oh, that sucks, man. Like, sorry that happened." But one thing I was thinking coming off the stage was just like, I hope people didn't think I was trying to BM. Like I definitely was not intending to shadow ball. Like, so I was just thinking, I hope they didn't think I was trying to BM and then got caught like BMing. But
yeah, that was off the
going for that.
Yeah, BMing was a big issue or not big issue, hotly debated topic after the BM that we saw in Toronto that same year prior. So I think people realized there was just some misclick pretty quickly. But that incident, man, it was because me and Speed Chief, when he was on the podcast, we used to argue about like, should def wins be a rule, right? Like definitive wins essentially in the rulings from judging. Like when it's like, oh, you have the move. Like if you couldn't get it off, should the win still be awarded to a player that should have got the move off? Because in the championship series, that's not the case. There's no definitive win, but in Civ, a lot of grassroots tournaments, that's the case. And, and obviously like the championship rules are what they are. You just go for a rematch in those situations, or the opponent can concede and give you one, but that's not a requirement by any means. And because of your shadow ball into knocked-out, Speed Chief used to always be like, but what if they press the wrong move, right? Like he's like, I don't know if that one should be a rule, because what if they do the Reis2Occasion and throw the shadow ball, then there still is a win condition. I was like, dude, if Reis just didn't throw the shadow ball, then we wouldn't be discussing that. But he does bring up a great point, right? That could always happen, and it has happened, but it could definitely happen in that situation. So,
I agree, to be honest. Yeah, I think there's been a couple scenarios where unfortunately someone has like had a move in the championship series and it hasn't showed up in the end game. And some people say, like, should you just concede in that moment? If I was in that person's shoes, I would personally like ask the judges if I could see the replay.
Yeah.
Because I would want to just like confirm that they were like pressing where the move was.
Yeah.
Like, cause I don't know, there's a chance in the moment they could make the same mistake. So like if I was able to visually see like they were intending to press the move that would have won them the game and it didn't show up, like I would probably concede in that scenario.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, not in the rules, and plenty of arguments on why that may or may not be. But yeah, you end up winning Knoxville though, from the winner's side too. So I remember your interview after that, you were saying that, especially after Orlando, after the shadow ball thing, maybe, confidence wise, you weren't fully as on point, but able to still take it, and then qualified Worlds for the second year in a row, which must have been a good feeling, right?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool in the interview after, because I had a couple of tough losses, and I complained a little bit about to like Speedy and some of the casters, just because there was this narrative when I won, like he's come close. He's so many times. He's competed so many times, and he finally like got over the hump. But it was my third regional. Like,
and you made top cut in the previous two too.
So I think it felt like I had tried so many times because I'd gotten a lot of stream matches because I had gone so far in the other ones. So it seemed like I had gone to so many, but I remember that like it was my third one, guys. Like it wasn't. Like
cut me some slack. Yeah, it was your third one the previous year, and arguably, I mean, you went further in both of the earlier ones the second season, right? So, yeah, and then 33rd in Milwaukee the second year. I remember you were in a really tough bracket too. That was like by far the hardest bracket that you had to come out of, and I mean you already qualified at that point, but we were like, oh, is Reis going to defend the title? But
I lost to Leo Geo round 1.
Yeah, and that was on stream.
It was tough.
Too. I remember that one,
and he just outplayed me. To be honest, the games were a little bit laggy and choppy. I don't think I actually missed any fast moves, but if you watch back the first game, it was like my Sableye against Azu, and it was like I would do 4 Shadow Claws and like the Azu wouldn't move, and then all of a sudden like 3 bubbles would come in. Yeah. So I actually didn't even like specifically ask for a review, but I remember Hollow Purple like saw the game just looked so funky, and then in the end it brought in my wrong Pokemon, and like he was in a favorable spot, but like it took away my ability to catch for a potential win con.
Yeah.
So Hollow Purple just kind of like said like, yeah, I'll take a look, and then he decided like to rematch it without me even like I didn't specifically say like I'd like to ask for a review, but I was kind of complaining like throughout the entire game, like this is like I can't cow and I can't do anything. But then he ended up winning anyway. Yeah. And I think I don't remember how Leo Gio ended up finishing in that tournament, if he made day 2. But he's a really good player. I think he's qualified for Worlds this year.
Yeah. No, he ended up going 13th, but he lost to that bracket was crazy. He lost to Keen Bart, and then he lost to Kimmy Sui. And the funny thing is, Bulk was also in that same bracket. Yeah. So like it was pretty nuts that like
Kimmy Kimmy started losers day 2 and got all the way to the finals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Kimmy was pretty he was pretty nuts, especially that season. But yeah, so 33rd there, and then of course you got second at NAIC as well. I think I remember this, right? I don't know if I told you this specifically, but I'll just come clean, right? So it was like, now that you know as a caster, right, a official caster, but like before we go into these tournaments, we'll talk with production, and they'll be like, hey, like who are some trainers you want to watch, right? We got to pick some players, right? And like obviously it's not a perfect formula. It doesn't mean that like whoever we pick is going to win, and whoever doesn't has no shot at winning. And we're trying to debate on who to pick. And I was like, well, okay, like. I forgot who we ended up picking. I think we picked Wadaj, just won them. I don't even know if I think we did pick Wadaj because he just won Hartford. I think maybe Doombug was on there. Maybe, or I think Axon was a lock for sure. Actually, I don't think Wadaj was on there. I think it was Dune, Axon, and we're trying to debate on like the third person. And some people threw your name in there, of course. And I was like, Rice could be good. I was like, I don't know, man. He lost to Battle Bill at Milwaukee. No hate on Battle Bill, but he hasn't won any tournaments, right?
And I was like, Battle Bill catching strays.
Yeah, he lost to Leo Gio, right? And again, no hate on Leo Gio, but he was no champion of any tournaments back then. And I think some of my personal bias because I faced them too. I was like, I was Reis2Occasion these people. And so I was like, man, I don't know. He's Reis looks a little wobbly these days. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to compete with some of the besties. I was like, I know he won Knoxville, but Knoxville was like a smaller tournament, right? And he still threw that shadow ball at the Knoxville from Orlando. But looking back on your record, it's actually crazy that I even said that because, like, yeah, besides the 33rd place, that was it. But I think we were also in the era where top cutting was like pretty regular for the top players because like Axon at that point had never missed a top cut, right? Like he went like second place at Vancouver, I think, and he just goes back to the very next tournament, wins first place, right? So I'm thinking like, oh, this is what the best can do. They could just win a tournament on command, pretty much, work at grand finals if they need to. So I think I said that, but we still end up going with you, right? We're like, no, like it's still fine, and then and you end up still taking second, and freaking Speedy, of course, threw me under the bus because like I never said that publicly, right? But he was like, I think when he's commentating your match, he's like, yeah, even Caleb's saying Rise a little wobbly. I was like, what? I was like, when did I say this? And I remember you DM me after you're like, hey, I don't know about this wobbly narrative, but I got squashed this, right? I did this, and whatever. I was like, did I say you're wobbly? I was like thinking back. I was like, I don't think I said it on stream. And I found out Speedy was the one that said it. So I told Speedy after. I was like, Speedy, like, why did you say this, man? I got Rise DM me everything. And the funniest part about this is I remember we GBL'd like shortly after that. And I beat you in a GBL battle because I think you just no shield Psychion Shadow Charizard when you had like 2 shields or something or a shield left. And otherwise you probably would have won that. And I remember just hopping in stream, just curious, like what your thoughts were. And I saw in your stream chat, they were like, "Oh, Mr. Wobbles or Mr. Wobbly, right? Looking wobbly, Rise." Because I think you reviewed the VOD with them prior, and so that became kind of a running joke. So I was cracking up when that happened. But all things said, obviously, very very deserved second place finish to Wadaj at NAIC, which was arguably the most stacked tournament of North America at the time or maybe ever since then. And then Worlds 2023. Unfortunately, faced off against, just like Golden Hada, faced off against another few APAC players that made it a little bit tougher run, right?
Yeah, the APAC players have just outplayed me at Worlds, to be honest. I won lead both times, I remember, against Teddiness, and I led Frostlass into Medi both games, and he just danced around really well with Lantern. I didn't have like a great response to Spark Lantern on my team.
Outside of Swampert, but even then, that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, because like if they shield Earthquake, suddenly it's like not good.
Yeah.
You kind of have to bait successfully for it to be good. And yeah, so plus I think he had a Shadow Venusaur, so it was like kind of tough to bring Swampert.
He did not. No.
Okay. But I guess someone else had a Shadow Venusaur.
Yeah, it was Kindness Dark did. Okay. It was a regular Venusaur, yeah.
Regular Venusaur. But yeah, I just got outplayed by a couple of APAC players, and I remember I was kind of like flustered, kind of salty after my second loss because I had like really high expectations, especially after NAIC doing so well. And I made sure like he posted like a tweet after his tournament, so I made sure to respond to it like, hey man, like just want to say sorry if I seemed upset after our match. Like I just had high expectations and was disappointed with how I played, but congratulations to you, like you deserve to win. So I made sure to send him that, and
yeah,
they were great battles. I did have, although I went 2-2, I had one game against Kindness Dark where I lost. I led Azu into Venusaur. I danced around, and in the end game, it came down to the very end where he was 5 Vine Whips away from Frenzy Plant. I had no shields, and his Venusaur was getting really low and still had a shield. And because I think I might have already landed an Ice Beam at some point, and I threw 3 bubbles and threw my Ice Beam as he was reaching the Frenzy Plant and KO'd him through the shield to win the game. And I went like, yeah, like I don't show emotion much when I play, but I was like, let's go. So it was like a crazy game. Even though it came in a losing match, that was like, that was a play I was proud of.
Dang, if only that was on stream. But I feel like last year's Worlds was arguably even harder than the first year too, because there were just a lot more players, right? So the chance of winning it all was just lower right then and there. But I feel like the skill level of everyone just like elevated quite a bit over the year from the previous year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you didn't hear any background noise of me whispering wobbles to you while that happened, because I'm sure you felt like you had a lot of proof. But either way,
and I was telling you, like, I wish I had just ran it back with my NAIC team, because I kind of overcorrected. I felt like where I was expecting everyone to counter Charizard or run Charizard, and I ran a team that like I thought handled Charizard fairly well. But out of the teams I saw, like I felt like Charizard would have been pretty good. I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, if you still have them up, but
yeah, you ran into 2 Venusaurs as well, and honestly, outside looking at this team, like two people had Lantern and the other 2 had Azumarill, but outside of that, like Charizard was pretty free. But yeah, that was it was
because I think what I've noticed from Worlds is like, and just in general from the Play Pokemon series, is the different regions have their own metas, sort of, as we know, and I don't think other regions get quite as influenced from other regions.
Yeah,
like I'm sure it happens, right? Like we just, well, it's counterpoint. We just saw SJ win with Lurgan Rocket's team.
Right.
But I think in general, like the regions kind of stick to their own slightly different metas.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that leads to our current season, which you went to a number of tournaments. You already qualified for World Championships through championship points. And you also cast your first tournament. But what's it been like this third season too? I don't know if you feel like you had to prove anything too, because you've already qualified. You're one of the highest championship leaderboarders in North America. 4th place, I believe, right? Or did that shift after Indianapolis?
Still 4th.
Okay.
Dune, nighttime, past Lyle with like locals, I think, and then Lyle, and then me.
Gotcha. But yeah, how are you feeling about this season overall?
Good. It's been fun. I don't know. It's like we talked about mindset a little bit earlier. It's like maybe not having to get top 2 to qualify subconsciously has like made me a little bit less focused, perhaps, where I haven't been able to get a top 4 finish so far, but I've been consistent in terms of 4 top cuts out of 6 tournaments. EUIC kind of wet the bed. I had like my worst performance ever, basically, because I've gone 2-2 before, but I went 2-2 and I like had a brutally bad misplay against Gengineer Josh. So it was like, to me, it was my worst performance ever, because it wasn't just a 2-2. It was like a 2-2 and I played bad.
Yeah.
But overall, pretty pleased. It'd be nice to get a better finish. We got a couple more opportunities the rest of the season, so we'll see. But I mean, it sounds weird, right? 4th place in NA to say like I want to do better, but
yeah.
I do. And I think part of that is Dunebug's success, right? Because like at a certain point in narrative, the narrative was kind of like us two as rivals.
Yeah.
And now seeing him just far and away dominate this season, he's like 500 points ahead of 2nd place. It's like
with a lot of championship titles to his name, right?
It's like I want to get back to that where like we're still on the same level or like playing field.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's talked about your rivalry with him quite a few times throughout the years too. So, hey, who knows? You haven't faced him in any of these tournaments yet, though, right? So that's you might
first one in Pittsburgh.
First
he
one
knocked me out.
Okay,
but yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah. So, and I came down to a game 3 as well.
Before seeding too.
Yeah, seeding definitely.
That's probably why we haven't played as much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you probably won't see him until either like end of day 1 or some point in day 2 if that happens. But hey, it might happen. Of course, you commentated your first tournament too. What was that like? And we could talk a little bit about Indianapolis as well too and the results. But I personally thought you did a fantastic job, and I'm not even saying that just because you're here. Like, I think if you did a bad job, I probably just wouldn't say it. But I think you did really good. But what was the feeling from your end?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I had so much fun. I had like an amazing weekend. When it was all over, I was just like smiling. I was just happy with how everything went. And I appreciate you getting there early and showing me around, like introducing me to people and doing like a quick little run through for practice. So that was really kind of you. And I enjoyed myself, man. And I made like some mistakes here and there. I had a funny moment at the end when I did the award ceremony. I don't know if you guys saw it in the lounge, but I introduced Trent and I gave him kind of a long intro. I'm like, he's been here 2 years ago. He finished near the top last time. He's built upon it, and he has his best career finish. Please, everybody, welcome to the stage, Trent. And I think in my head, like with that intro, I was like almost expecting like a response. So I actually pointed the mic to him first, and then I was like, oh wait, I need to ask a question. So I had a funny little goof up there, but then I made a joke about it when SJ came up. I was like, I'll actually ask a question this time. And I felt like the few times like I had some fluff ups, I was able to like laugh it off and just go with the flow. So I was pretty pleased with how it went. And yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, no, I think how you adapt to the situation is a really good indicator as well, because everyone makes mistakes, even like some of the most seasoned commentators. I've watched like other esports from other games, and some of their like fumbles on their interviews, whoever, or make ours look like nothing in response, but they'll just make a joke out of it and like, say whatever. So I think you did really well in adapting there. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty impressive tournament, especially from SJ in his second ever tournament, right? Second place in Pittsburgh, in Peoria, which and he lost to King Alexander. And not to take anything away from King Alexander, but King Alexander had a huge team comp advantage with that water gun lantern into SJ's team. And this time around, SJ just played a pretty safe and balanced team that he took from Lurgan Rocket, and he made it look easy for the most part. Outside that winners finals was pretty backcourt between him and Pocket.
Good call from me, and the players to watch.
That's true. Yeah. See now on the other side of things, you know how it goes. And yeah, we had to pick some players to watch and stuff. And Reis2Occasian's name in the hat pretty early on. And me, like, I wasn't doubting it. I just was unsure because he's played really great in like grassroots tournaments. in GBL, right? And obviously fantastic in Peoria, but sometimes playing in person versus online is different, right? Some people tend to perform a lot better online or the other way around. And, like there's a lot, it was like the biggest North America tournament. There's a lot of people he had to go through to get to that stage, and anyone could have like potentially knocked him out, right? But he just outplayed them and made that impossible. But
and we talked about like you also have your own biases just like off who you've played and stuff.
Yep.
And when I've played SJ, like I just feel like he's cracked. He's had a couple of wins against me in like factions and stuff where like I didn't even see the win condition from him and he like pulls it out.
Yeah. No, he's and he was super humble and chill too. Honestly, it was a funny interview because he was like probably the most lethargic player I've ever seen on that ward stage. But I think he was just exhausted and tired. Right? He's like, yeah, it didn't hit me yet. But it was fun to see it. That's also kind of his personality. I feel like I don't think I've ever seen him like super like hype emotional, right? Like
him and Shiny Dialga, like opposites.
yes, very far opposites in that regard. Funny enough, they're locals too, so pretty interesting to see. But yeah, what a run from him, and definitely someone to be worried about at Worlds later this year. I asked you this in person, but I'm sure people are curious about what you had to say on this question too. After commentating officially for the first time, obviously you've done plenty of commentary for grassroots stuff. What's kind of like the future for you in terms of competition? Like, are you more interested in commentary, more interested in competing, stuff like that? And I think like, there's not a lot of commentators that are like super competitive in the circuit. Like a lot of them are focused more on commentary first, vice or the other way around. I think outside of myself and Adequance in nighttime, right? In the commentators list, most are probably just focus more on commentary. But what about you? Obviously, you're one of the best players in the world. How's the future look for you in terms of that?
I'd love to keep commentating if I get more opportunities next season. I had so much fun with it, and I think Michael, our SME, after asked me like, "So, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you enjoy more, casting or competing?" And I was like, I'd say 90%. Casting, other than the 2 times I've actually been able to win. So like, it's like I don't know. I feel like casting, you're almost guaranteed to have a great time. Yep. And I've competed a lot. I think we counted 14 tournaments, and if you include Worlds, 16 tournaments. So casting is something long term I'd love to keep doing. I still have that like hunger to compete. And Axon had a pretty cool quote like before he won Worlds, where he was like there's very few people in this world that have an opportunity to say like to realistically win a world championship in something. So like, why not take that opportunity to and pursue it to the fullest? So kind of a badass quote from Axon. Can I say badass?
Yeah, you can say it.
but yeah, I really enjoyed casting. And I mean, I think casting these play Pokemon tournaments is like special for everyone that's gotten to do it. But for me, it's like almost extra cool because it's like an actual career in sports casting I kind of wanted to pursue. So for me, it's almost like the biggest event in a way I've gotten to do in that broadcasting space. Before this, probably the biggest event I got to do was when Marquette women's volleyball made the NCAA tournament. I got to cast a game I got to broadcast the game they did on NCAA.com. So normally it was just gomarquette.com, and our games would get, I don't know, I think they told me the numbers. Sometimes it was up to maybe like a few hundred to 1,000. But when I got to cast on NCAA.com, that got like tens of thousands of live viewers for that game. So that was probably the biggest solo event I've done before. And this one was really cool to get the opportunity. So if they have me back next season, I'd love to. They've got my email address.
They do. They know where to find you for sure. It was funny too, because a lot of people backstage already kind of knew you. Like, oh wait, I've taken your photo, or have I seen you on stage or done an interview with you too. So something that I don't know if they do this for all casters. Oh, also I left Tomahawk off the caster list of people that could compete and kind of cast at the same time. But my apologies, Tomahawk. He for some reason doesn't think he's even worth $1 on the tier though. So maybe he's not as good as I'm saying he is.
We got nighttime too.
Yeah, nighttime and Inadequance as well. But Yeah, it's interesting too because once they get to know you as well, I know I don't know if it happens for sure, but this is what they tell me. Like when I'm on stage, they're usually like rooting for me backstage, right? Because it's like these people, even though they like work production, they don't necessarily play Pokemon Go. They like get invested in the players, right? Because that's, I mean, you know, as much as we see the tournaments, they see every tournament too, right? Firsthand in person, and so I mean, some people like, of course, you can approach and be like, I'm not going to really pay attention, but I'm just going to do my like my sound thing or the graphics thing or whatever, but or the replay guy. But I'm pretty sure most of the production crew are pretty invested in the players as well. So it's really cool to see them, you know, root for certain people as well, not even just casters as well, right? But I'm sure once you be up to like, oh, like we got root for Chris as well, right? You know, we know him and stuff like that. So um, it is definitely cool to see. If it came down to it, if assuming you don't win Worlds this year, let's say you get really close, right? You get like top 8, top 5 maybe at Worlds. If you were asked the opportunity, I know nothing you say here is obviously like, you know, it could change, right, a year from now. But if you're asked to do commentate for Worlds next year, would you take it up, or would you say like, hey, like I'm still feeling like I'm on my prime. Let's give it one last go around, stuff like that, right?
It's tough. Like I don't know. I think me getting asked to cast Worlds, just I'm a very like analytical, or at least I like to think like a logical person. So it just seems like a little far off currently since I'm a one-time caster. But like I'm just hoping to get invited back for any events next season. But so it's tough to realistically like see that right now. So my answer seems more like I still have that hunger to compete.
Yeah.
But if the situation actually presented itself, like that'd be such an amazing opportunity. It's definitely like, yeah, something I'd want and would consider in the future.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't write yourself off because you only casted once. So I'll give this because I remember seeing this for the first time. I was like, whoa, that's pretty wild. But so TCG's been around for over 10 years, right? There's a lot of commentators for it. But Frosted Caribou was invited for the first time ever to commentate at NAIC in 2022. So that was her first ever tournament, which is pretty impressive, right, for international. Her second tournament was Worlds that year. So
wow,
like a few months later. So not out of the picture, right? Obviously, TCG different than Go, and I can't speak for production, TPCI employees on that, but I think first time casting ever at Worlds would be probably a stretch, but they have plenty of stuff to figure out, to, you know, examples of you commentating here in Indianapolis. And I assume if the opportunity did present itself next year, then for Worlds, then you probably would have casted at least like one or a couple of tournaments before then, potentially. But but yeah, okay, we'll be on the lookout and see. I mean, if Rise wins Worlds, then well, that'll be a whole different conversation if you defend your title or not. And you know, if you need to be moved up a certain tier list or so. What were your thoughts on the tier list out of curiosity too? I know we created a tier list last episode, obviously, if for those tuning in saw, and if not, you might have saw on X/Twitter, but we dropped you in that $2 tier. And this was like a tier list for like the current best players to win Worlds this year, right? Obviously, like all-time accomplishments, there's very few that have accomplished as much as you have in the circuit.
Yeah, I wasn't as bothered as some people were. I was actually happy to see like in Atquins's reply got like a lot of likes and stuff. So I was like, yeah, people are rooting for me.
He almost ratioed
me. But I think I'm like my own worst critic at times. So I haven't been necessarily satisfied with some of my performance, especially my recent performance in EUIC. I was very disappointed with. So I think from my own perspective, like if I was looking more for the framing, because if we were framing like, if we were like making like our greatest of all time based off resume,
yeah,
I'd be like, yeah, maybe like I could be a little higher. But like if we're framing like most likely to win Worlds this year, I don't think it's that far off. I think you could put, the confident part of me says like you could put me higher, but like just being on the list, because let's think about it this way. If you had me the I don't know if it was like in order for each tier.
Oh, it wasn't. It was just like a mixed order, yeah. But I think you were first on that list because we were like already talking about it. You'd be like, hey man, Rise has got to be number 2 at like the $2 tier at least at this point. So you were like pretty quick slotted into that one because it was already discussed if you would be in a higher tier prior. Yeah.
But if the conversation is who's most likely to win Worlds, and you have me like in the 16th spot, like, can I really be insulted that like someone has me in the top 16 of people to potentially win Worlds? Like, it's not really a slight in my opinion.
Yeah.
As some other people saw it, and like all the players that were in higher tiers are insane. So yeah, like the confident part of me thinks like maybe 3, 4, I could have been in those tiers, but like I wasn't too insulted by it. Dunebug told me I should be higher, so shout out to Dunebug.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's matches versus you, right? A lot of it is personal bias in terms of people you face and like how it's gone. And some players you like in your mind, they're like maybe even lesser known, but like, dude, like you don't know how good this is. Like you don't know how good SJ is and whatever. SJ's not on the list, but he only played in one tournament before this, so a lot of it we're basing off of official tournament results, not like Sylph or GBL and stuff like that. So obviously, I think he makes a good argument to be on that list. Funny enough, too, I mean, based on personal experience, I've actually never beaten you in any Show 6 format. Obviously, we never played officially in the championship circuit, but in any grassroots or like draft league and stuff like that, I've taken like a game off you, but that's it. Like, I think a lot of times they do go to game 3, but I've never actually beaten you. So, I mean, if it was personal experience, you'd probably be higher. Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Stark told me one time, he's like, dude, like you always have my number in Show 6. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know. Like, I didn't realize. But yeah, there's certain people. I think it's human nature. Like we remember the losses more than the wins. So like you remember people that have had your number. Like I feel like whenever I see that boy Jay's name in GBL, it's like he always wins.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like it psychs you out too, in terms of like, when you see the name, it's like, and you have a favorable lead. Like sometimes when that happens, I literally sit there and think like, oh, I'm going to find a way to throw this. I already know. Right. And then you end up throwing it, or like you get outplayed and stuff. If you were to name one person in the world that you're like most scared to face, or you think has like the greatest chance of beating you consistently every time, who would it be?
Wow. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I guess you're making me reveal that maybe I am confident where like there's not an immediate name.
Really? Okay. Hey,
that jumps to mind. But
that's an acceptable response too.
One person. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Crescent Angels.
Really? Have you faced them before? Oh, probably in GBL, right?
In Show 6.
Yeah.
But not only does he always beat me in GBL, he like just always outplays me in GBL.
Yeah.
And we don't have like as many data points on Crescent Angels.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's the APAC region has just had my number. I told you 3 of my 4 Worlds losses have been APAC players. So
right. Yeah, he got 3rd place the first year, and then he got 25th last year, losing only to Babu Husep and Scafo.
Actually, I change it. I say Godon Hada if he comes back.
Oh yeah. Wait,
because he like took me to school. It was so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Man, I don't know what happened with him. I knew last year he didn't have the chance to play, but he didn't play last year, and I don't believe he. Okay, so there's a qualifier this year. Yeah, he wasn't in the qualifier last week for South Korea, and he wasn't in this one, or at least not in the top 8. I don't think he played.
Just imagine.
Yeah, so
just imagine the scenario.
Yeah,
you're fresh off a win in Milwaukee against Dunebug, and your first battle, you play a guy that says, "Nice to meet you, fan of the channel," and then you end up losing 2-0 by his Shadow Kanto Ninetales baiting your Swampert with Weather Ball and landing Overheat to knock it out.
Crazy. And he only the only person he's ever lost in the official circuit, I guess, that we have on record is against Dancing Rob, because he lost in the grand finals round. Wow. First one, and then in the reset, because he came straight from winner side. But yeah, he beat you. He had a bye against Rob Drogo, who couldn't make it. He 2-0 Nickname, 2-0 JB Yang, 2-1 against Marto, and then 3-1 against Crescent Angels. And the one game Crescent Angels won was crazy. He had to catch like a return on his he had to catch like a psychic from his like Crescent Angels Metacham on like a 1 HP Sableye. No, sorry, Golden Hada's return actually threw on his Metacham. I don't know, but Crescent Angels had played out his mind just to win that one game, and even then, it wasn't that close afterward. But Yeah, I hope he's doing well. I don't know where he's at. Hopefully he comes back one day, but I think at least for this year Worlds, you don't have to worry about Golden Hada. So that'll be that. Yeah, my person is until I face anyone better, it's going to be my teammate DFH. I've only scrimmed him and then battled him in GBL, which I've like never beat him in. I think I beat him once actually, but that was about it. But he made the he's going to be at the qualify for Japan at least this year. Last year he missed out because Japan is like best of ones, and I think you just get RPS like in one match and you're out. So yeah, if anyone faces him at Worlds, if he qualifies for Worlds and anyone faces him, let me tell you, I warned you. But so I'm curious too, as you know, you're doing Pokemon Go commentary as well. What or do you have any interest in doing commentary for other games and stuff moving forward, esports, or you think you're going more towards like the sports side? Obviously you're doing full-time content creation and now commentary as well for Pokemon Go is your thing, but what's the future look like for you?
I'd love to still pursue sports broadcasting in the future if that ever presented itself. My buddy Patrick is actually that I went to college with is actually the esports manager for the Milwaukee Bucks like esports team, the Bucks Gaming. So I saw him for the first time like a few months ago in years, and I told him I'd be interested in like maybe some esports casting opportunities in the future. So I think they're doing some like one small side event that I've been in contact with them about that maybe I'll get a chance to do like a NBA 2K type thing. So that I would love that. Like I said, I've always been into sports games. I'm not as knowledgeable about some of the big time esports games like League of Legends and such and like Valorant. So that'd be something I think would be a stretch for me because I'd really have to like do a lot of learning for that. But yeah, for the future, more casting would be a pleasure, would be a dream. And then sports broadcasting still definitely of interest to me.
Do they have any like competitive esports for like the sports games like 2K or whatever? Or
yeah, there's an NBA 2K league that's a pretty big deal.
Okay.
They have like a championship every season. I don't know if every single NBA team has their own esports team.
Yeah.
But most of them do. And
Really?
Bucks Gaming actually won the championship, and it's a big production. It's in Vegas, and
What?
it's
That's kinda wild.
yeah, it's like a huge grand prize. I don't want to make up a number, but it might be like $500K for the winning team or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in esports too. Not to say like Pokemon doesn't provide a lot of money, but a lot of the esports provide even more. So let's hey, maybe we'll see in Vegas one day on the big screen.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty dope. Well, yeah, we'll see how that goes. One thing I want to mention. So we usually have like a kind of like a little tea segment or whatever, like or just controversial topics here or there. Sometimes they're not that controversial. But there's something I saw last night on X. I don't know if you saw. It was from DJ Enterprise, OG player, right?
Oh yeah, I did see.
Yeah, so he tweeted out screenshots. It was not even a screenshot. It was something that Axon said, I guess, on a stream, and he just quoted it. And what Axon said on a stream yesterday was, "You can definitely make legend at any point in the season. Only takes a couple of good days. Even if you're in the 2300s to 2400s right now, it's not a long shot as long as you make whatever improvements to your gameplay that might be necessary. It's just a few little things that honestly separate a 2500 battler from a legend battler." And he even put it like, "Oh, Axon said this on May 5th of 2024." And so to use Enterprise, obviously, like everyone has their own opinion, so there's nothing wrong with his opinion on this. He says it takes a couple of good weeks, not days. It's a long shot. A lot of luck is required. Yes, I've done it several times. Did I get lucky? Way too much. At this point in the evolution PvP, the only difference between 2500s and 3000s are team compositions, not skill. What is your take on this? Obviously, I kind of probably know, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this, because there's a lot of discussion around this. And I will say too, most of it was respectful, right? And like, but he was asking for, he also said, open to respectful commentary about my comments on this quote from Action Stream. So he was opening this conversation. So of course, a lot of people responded, but what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, first off, I love DJ Enterprise. He's a super nice guy, and he oftentimes is like a mod in my Twitch chat, my Twitch stream. And also did a great job DJing King and Cindy's wedding.
That's right. Yeah, he actually is a DJ too. It's not just a name.
Yeah. So book him. But in terms of this particular take, I tend to disagree with what he's saying, because I don't do that much coaching anymore, but I'll do occasional coaching sessions. And like I recently had a time where a guy was stuck in the 2600s and I was helping guide him through some battles and giving him some advice, gave him a particular team that I've been running, which gave me some success. And he gained like 240 points in a day. So like, I think there are some clear, consistent differences between 2,500 and 3,000 in terms of the skill level. I think what he's saying is it's not like that big of a difference, which could be true to some degree where, yeah, I think in the 2,500s today, like people still know timing and typings, obviously, and their counts on a lot of mons. But what people need to realize to some degree is the difference between going 16 and 9 and like 14 and 11 in a day over the span of weeks and weeks is going to result in like hundreds of elo points. So let's say someone of a particular skill would have flipped maybe like two of the games that you played from losses to wins. Like over the grand scheme of the season, that's going to result in a lot of points. So that's kind of my take on it is, yeah, someone from 2,500 to 3,000, it's not like it's this just gargantuan gap of skill or one player is just so much better. But like, I think in terms of consistency and reading teams and maybe your knowledge of counts, maybe your knowledge of how much a move is going to do, whether you need to shield something to get something off, like things like that. It's enough skill better to make the difference in a few games over the course of a day, which adds up over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I agree with that too. And I was just saying that, like, I think one of the hardest things for players that, and this is not just Pokemon Go, this is really just in life and many different activities, sports, games, etc., professions. But it's that, typically speaking, if you're not on that highest tier, you don't usually have the knowledge to know why you're not. So I know like some players that might be in lower, you'll be like, man, I just got, outlucked, right? Out team comped, whatever. And sometimes that could be true, right? I'm not saying it's not never true, but I find that a lot of times my losses, unless I'm running just like a completely trash team, is my own misplay, right? Or the opponent just playing a little bit better. And maybe if I outplay them here or there, I could have made a win happen. But the problem is, like, if you don't have the expertise to know, to necessarily maybe be as good as some others, you don't have the expertise to like recognize it as well, right? Or maybe for lack of a better word, self-awareness to recognize it. And so that's always a tough part. But I find that a lot of the best players, they know why they lost, right? They don't really make excuses. And anytime I hear people that maybe doesn't do so well in even like the championship series circuit, right? I'm like, oh, what happened? Like, you didn't make day 2, or like, oh yeah, I just won like 0-2 or like 1 and 2. Like, yeah, I got RPS or blah, blah, blah. It's possible, right? But
Yeah.
you played in a lot of tournaments, and I think I don't think there's a single one. I mean, just throughout this podcast, when you talk about your losses in some of these big tournaments, you're like, oh, I just got RPS and blah, blah, blah. Like, it was usually you were like, oh, I lost and I had the team comp advantage, right? Like, I feel like that was more the narrative you were sharing. And I do hope that those that are trying to improve recognize that, right? And sometimes, whether you do any coaching or not, I know coaching typically is not free, but sometimes if you have a friend or buddy that could take a look and stuff, get a second opinion, always a good thing to do to review your gameplay and see like, hey, like, was it really the team, or was it something I was doing? And in all likelihood, it's probably something you're doing. If you run a really bad team, like, if they're a good friend, they'll probably tell you like, hey, like, just my cargo and open grade league's just not the thing, right? So but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully discussion's been helpful for DJ Enterprise in that regard.
Especially in like show 6 in GBL, you might get RPS a little bit more often, but in show 6, I've competed a lot, as we know, and maybe like 20% of my losses I could say were RPS. I'd say the vast majority of them, there was something I could have done differently or some different play I could have made.
Yeah, and you might get RPS in like, let's say, one game in a series, but the second loss might not be RPS, or you might get played, right? And that's just how it boils down to. Like, sometimes I'll play, and even all the tournaments I played in, like there's only like I can only think of like one or like maybe 2 times I got RPS. I don't play as much as some others, but I played enough to know, right? And one of them, of course, was against Onion Frank. Yeah, he ran ABA weekly Bassi and did not respect the Bassi on it. I paid the price. He paid the price in the second game though. So when I brought Bassi, so it worked out that way. But yeah, speaking of different games, so I know I owe you all a little story as well, so I might as well share. It's my RuneScape story. I know, sorry, Rise, you had to sit through this, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever heard of RuneScape?
I've heard of it. Yeah. I don't know much about it though.
Okay, it's like it's an MMORPG, so massive multi online role playing game. I think is what it stands for. But it's essentially like you have a character, you roam around, and you could fight different people. You could but you could do a bunch of stuff. Like you could cook, you could build armor, you could mine, you could build arrows, stuff like that. And all these different things are skills to it, right? So like if you choose to fish a lot, then your fisherman levels go up and stuff like that. You could do it all, but most people focus on one thing, right? They'll focus on a craft so that they could generate money. So like you catch like swordfish, you can sell it for currency so you could buy stuff, right? Or if you make armor, you can sell the armor, get stuff. And then they focus on a type of combat. So it's usually like archery, magic, or like just like hand-to-hand combat, like swords and stuff. And they all it's I like RPS. Like I think magic beats fighting, and then like fighting beats archery and archery beats magic. It is an RPS triangle too, right? So what you focus on, so you master on certain thing. Anyways, I played this game a little bit as a kid when it first came out in beta, but then I played it again in high school, and there were this was back in 2005 2006, so online scams and catfishing, all that stuff was not like super popular or like well known. And someone straight up came up to me and they had like a username. It was like monitor like 24 or something. And in this game, you could DM anyone, right? At least it used to be like that. So, but there's like maybe like 30, 40 different worlds. So they're essentially different servers. We could be in different server messaging. So someone from a different server with that username was saying like monitor 24. It's like, hey, this is official staff members of RuneScape. You've been caught like stealing from another player and hacking them. We need to check your account to see if this is true or not, or else you'll be banned. And, me in high school as like a 13, 14-year-old was pretty scared. I was like, wait, what? Like, I was like, I don't want to get banned, right? And I thought about it, right? And on the load screen when you load a game, they literally have like on like a tooltip at the bottom, and every time it says like official RuneScape staff will never ask for your password, right? Don't fall for these games. So he's been saying it for years, right? But everyone logs in, just like barely read the message at a certain point. I sat there, I almost gave away my password. I was like, I think this is a scam. I waited out, and of course, nothing happened. It was a scam. And okay, so anyway, the premise of the story is I told Anicor a while ago that I did something that I'm not proud of. Probably one of my most morally questionable decisions I made, especially when it comes to gaming. I said I'll share on episode 150, and here we are. So what I did, I was like, wait, that was pretty clever. I'm gonna do that too. So here's the thing: you're walking around the world, you can see what people are wearing, stuff, and the armor they have, so like who's rich and got stuff, right? So what I'll do is I see someone, ooh, they got some nice stuff, right? I'll write down their username, hop on like a separate account, like monitor like 12 or something like that. Same script. I type in like, you've been accused of hacking, like they of stealing this item from this person, like please hand over your account info so we could check it. And then I'll say like, oh, and if all things check out, we'll reward you with like one of the rarest items in the game or something. And I'm telling you, right? Guess what percentage of time this worked out of all the times I tried it?
Yikes. I'm scared. Like 50?
No. It was 100%. 100%. And because this is back in like 2005 where like, hacking and catfishing wasn't very well known, right? And these are like, sometimes they're kids, sometimes they're teenagers or adults. It just varied on the age group. But a lot of them are pretty on the younger end. And sometimes like their parents would come on and be like, hey, like this is this person's mom. Like I swear my kid didn't do it. I was like, that's fine. Like we're staff members. Like we understand it's a stressful situation. But like, if everything checks out, it'll be okay. Anywhere from legitimately like 2 minutes to 30 minutes, I get their password, right? And
oh my gosh.
I know. I feel bad looking back on it. And I would log in, I'll change the password to like I'm stupid or something, something like that, just to troll with them. And then I'll transfer all their stuff from their account to my alt account, and then I'll transfer from my alt account to my main account. And let me tell you, right? People look rich when they're wearing armor stuff, but on top of what they're wearing, they have all their stuff in their personal inventory, and they have an in-game bank. In the bank, sometimes these banks were loaded with stuff that you didn't even expect, right? And it was kind of a weird situation where, like, when you cheat in games, it kind of ruins the game too. Because literally after about a week or two of doing this, I got bored of the game. I was like, I have too much money that I didn't earn myself. I just stole from people. And there was no point, like, why would I go fishing or mining when I could just steal from people? Like, there was no point in playing the rest of the game. I had so much stuff that I couldn't store. I like, because some of the rarest items in the game, you don't sell for gold because they're worth so much. You just sell for, like, you just trade for other items, right? They're that rare. And I just had like pretty much like all these like super rare items in my bank that I couldn't offload. I would just like be on like the market trying to sell these things all day long. And I was like, I just don't want to play the game anymore. So I just quit the game after like a few weeks because of that. And I feel bad. I will say the silver lining here, the only good news about this, which hard to imagine, besides my own realization that these are not things I should be doing, and I learned from it as a teenager, is they increased their security system because of people like me. Because I think these hacks went around quite a bit, and then so shortly after that, they created like a 4-digit PIN code for the in-game bank. So at least like you can't just pillage their entire stash, right? If you didn't know the code, so it's like almost like a real life bank in a way. So I guess they could thank me for improving their security system. But that was the morally questionable thing I did. And again, I don't recommend cheating for people in general for all forms of life. But there are, it was not my proudest moment.
I was really into FIFA when I was younger.
Yeah.
And FIFA has a ultimate team mode, like some of their sports games, where the concept is basically like you start with bronze players who are like not very good or well known, and then you play games to earn coins, and then you can buy like better players, and over the course of time you build your ultimate team, like a team with amazing players. And I remember I was like playing all the time with my buddy Spencer, and I was like 9 years old, and I remember I got a message on like Xbox Live like, hey man, I found this glitch where you can like duplicate players, get unlimited coins. Like, here's the proof. And then it shows his account with like all the best players that are worth like millions of coins. And I'm like, no way. I gave him my account, dude. My account's information. I like logged back in the next day. Like, all my players are gone. I was crying. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. My mom didn't know why I was crying.
Oh man.
And so I learned my lesson from a young age not to give out account information.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've been on the receiving end of that. Obviously, I didn't fall for the RuneScape hack, but I played other games. Same thing. I got scammed, and it's look, honestly, learning it from, I'm not saying I've recommended people, but learning it from a video game is luckily better than life, right? Where you get scammed. Because I'll talk to some friends and be like, yeah, dude, I got scammed from some Coachella tickets. And I was like, I'm like, what? You're like 24. Like, how did you fall for this, right? It's like we're in like 2015.
Now it's kind of scary with AI though. Like, I've gotten some phone calls.
Oh, really?
Like, before it's like, yeah, like before it's like super obvious, but now you get a phone call where it sounds like a real person, like not like a automated message.
Oh, I didn't pick up phone calls anymore because of that. I like, if they're not my contacts, I usually just don't even pick it up. But
yeah, that's
the AI stuff, and I feel like scamming people is a little bit harder these days. So people have to get more creative, right? Because back in the day, like the early 2000s, I was like, people weren't well aware on that. But anyway, if you want to roast me because of that, I don't blame you. But anyway, thank you for being part of this episode too. You know, I thought it was cool to hear your perspective, especially hot off of just being the first time commentator in the championship series. But you know, I think I was very curious about hearing your journey leading up to this point too, because you've been around the scene for, you know, 4+ years at this point too. And definitely have a lot of following, and of course, you know, you meet someone at Worlds and they already know who you are, right? So like, definitely a name that people should look out for. But for those that anyway, I was gonna ask you, is there anything you'd like to share that I maybe didn't ask before I asked you to kind of plug your socials?
Not really. Just had a lot of fun this weekend. One thing that I told you guys that surprised me at like dinner and stuff was it was a lot more chill than I expected. I got there and backstage, I thought it was going to be like, I don't know, kind of tense and like really precise. Like, we need this and that. Make sure you don't do that. But like, other than other than like producers giving direction on like tossing it to an interview and stuff like that, they don't really give you a whole lot of like direction of what to do, you know? Like it's kind of like go out there and cast. So there's a lot more like chilled than I expected, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think they a lot of it's just like kind of owning the product yourself and putting your own spin and personality on it, right? They don't want to like dictate like how we should cast and stuff, right? And everyone has their own approach to it. Speaking of everyone has their own approach, I don't know if I told you this specifically or not, but I know we had group discussions about it. But I remember specifically when we were commentating at one point, you like brought the stream back and like, welcome back to the Indianapolis, you know, we get a spiel right after break. And, you know, you're sitting to my left, obviously, but I'm looking at the camera and I'm just sitting there like, this sounds so much like Butters. It's crazy, right? Like the inflection, the tone, you're like similar height as him. So I feel like the voice is also coming from the same area right next to my head, right? Like if you're like 2 feet shorter, then it probably sound different as well. And I just remember I was like, man, that's like clearly the sportscaster like background talking there. But like everything sounds so similar. And I remember I went backstage and I was asked productions, like, I was like, didn't he sound like Butters? They're like, 100%, right? Like, well, I think I asked someone, I was like, who did Reis sound like? And then like the production was like, dude, 2 Butters, like no, like not even close. And I was just thinking, I was like, it'd be really funny one day if you and Butters are casting side by side in the same thing. I think it'd be hilarious too, because obviously you guys sound different, but I think at certain points people might get you two confused during the commentary, which would be kind of cool. But
yeah, it was that was a cool comment to hear, because like from day one, like, I don't know, it was kind of like, oh, like you're new, like here's how everything is. And then like the second day, like getting a compliment, like being compared to like sounding kind of like Butters was cool. And plus we both are big basketball fans. Yeah. So that's probably subconsciously, like I'm sure we've both watched a lot of basketball in our day, and maybe we have some influence from some of the basketball commentators that we've listened to. So maybe that's part of it as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Really cool to see. I will say one final little story too. We were at dinner after the final day, and you know, this all came about because Amanda's like bragging about all the places she travels to, right? And we're comparing stats, right? I'll share the original part of this, right? And you know, if Amanda's listening to this, feel free to correct the story on your own podcast if you like.
Amanda's already typing.
Yeah, Amanda's already typing. But so she was like, it was just, you know, the 4 of us, me, you, Speedy, Amanda, and Amanda's like, yeah, I feel like out of everyone I know in life, not even just like out of the 4 of us, right, everyone I know, personally know, I travel more than anyone. I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know where this is going, right? I was like, and she definitely had a little like, you know, like fancy drinking tea with a monocle on her eye kind of like tone, right? It was a little smug. So we're like, I was like, all right. I mean, true. I know you travel a lot for your job, like outside of commentary. So on top of the commentary, you probably travel a lot. And she was saying how but because she goes to these places, she's trying to, like, every time she spins a new Pokestop, she's trying to have it on a buddy to get the new, like, visit location, extra hearts. Sometimes she doesn't spin as much as she wants to. And because of that, she's losing a race to, like, a certain amount of Pokestops, like, new Pokestop encounters with Paul Lasha. Just, like, a medal for it. Like, how many unique Pokestops have you spun in gyms? And so here I'm thinking, it's like, oh, she's traveled to like over 43 different countries, or 43 countries in so many places. She's got a lot. And so I was like, how much do you have? She's like, well, how much do you have? I was like, how about this? We put our phones down on the table all at once with the same badge. We're all pulling up the badge. Reis is doing it too, right? And Speedy as well. And so we put it down. And I'm thinking, all right, like I know Reis has studied abroad and stuff, but he probably hasn't gone as much as like me, Speedy, and Amanda. He's not, you know, flying all the places to commentate. So I know you don't grind the game near as much. So I was sitting here, I was like, all right, I'm not. So we put our phones down. I'm not even looking at Reis, right? I'm just looking at Speedy. It's like, let's see how close this is between me and Speedy. I can't remember. I think I had Speedy beat by a few, but it was close. Like we were within 100 unique Pokestops from each other, which is pretty nuts because we're like both over 10,000 at that point. I was like, oh dang! I was like pretty close, Speedy. And me and Speedy were always trying to like compete on little things here or there. So it was cool to see that. And then we all look at Amanda. It's like, all right, Amanda, how much you got? Right? Like me and Speedy got over 10,000. Like I'm expecting like 20,000, 30,000 at least. I look, she's under 10,000. She's like 9,000. So she's like, wait. Like I said, like I always spin one every time. Like I go new places. I'm like, okay, I get that, but eventually you got to spin stops, right? And she had all these excuses, but all of a sudden we're like, wait, like Amanda, you're a phony, right? Like you're not going to nearly as many as you say you are. but of course, she was a little embarrassed about that, and we roasted her. And then after that, we were just comparing stats across the board, and like I think I have a lot more catches than everyone, so like a lot of my stats were pretty high in that. And then we did egg hatching. I was like, man, I don't really hatch a lot of eggs, so I wouldn't be surprised if you all have me beat on this one. Besides Rise, turns out Rise has hatched more eggs than I have, which is crazy because I caught like more than 5 times the amount of Pokemon. I didn't even take a break throughout the years.
I don't even have that many like kilometers walked either. Like,
yeah,
look,
you don't.
I just usually have a lot of eggs incubating for whatever reason. I guess I just like to.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look up my kilometers.
Yeah. I'm over 30K, so the I know the kilometers is not going to be comparable, but I've only hatched 5,000 something eggs, and Rise hatched over 6,000.
Yeah, I'm about 8K kilometers.
That's crazy. Yeah, so less than a third of the kilometers, and well, how many total catches? I have like 500, and you're under 100,000.
Like 77K.
Yeah, and crazy. I didn't think Rise had me beat on any of the like the grinding stats, but egg catcher Rise coming at you. So that was a cool moment for sure. But anyway, that was a funny little story. But where can people find you if they don't know already? I'm sure a lot of people listening to podcasts are already fans of you, but if they aren't, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Reis2Occasion, REIS, the number 2, the occasion, and then Twitter and Twitch, Reis2Occasion.
Gotcha. Really cool. And where can we find you maybe in a future competition or commentary gig? If you would like to share. Of course, you don't have to, right?
Well, for the remainder of this season, it'll be all competing. I'll be at NAIC for sure. And you'll see me in Honolulu, Hawaii for Worlds. I'm super excited.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you got second place at NAIC. Probably hungry for that first place. I don't think Dodge is competing anymore. Definitely not NAIC this year. So maybe the coast is clear. But I know Doonbug's looking for that international title too. So
yeah, because Dune has been so dominant in regionals, but he's yet to have like a super great performance in an international or Worlds. So
yeah,
I know he's hungry for that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he got second at UIC, which is pretty good. But
yeah. My bad. Yeah, just recently. Yeah,
it's recent. I mean, maybe that's not good for someone like you, but for me, I'll I'd take a lot of second places, but I'll take a second at IC.
I just forgot. Yeah,
no, for sure. Well, anyway. Thank you so much for spending the time here to share your thoughts and your story and stuff. And we look forward to see you compete in future tournaments at NAIC and Worlds. And if anyone calls Rise wobbly, just know that he got a DM for you to say why he's not. Yeah. But.
No, thanks so much for having me. Last thing I'll say, we made the joke at dinner because some people were pushing me to make fun of the tier list on the stream. So Caleb introduces me one time we come back from break as 2-time regional champion, Reis2Occasion. I was like, if I had $1 for every regional championship, I'd be worth $2. But I don't know.
You should have said it. I would have loved it. I would have thought it was hilarious.
In hindsight, yeah, it might have been funny, but I don't know.
We'll save it for the next time when we're together.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, we'll catch y'all next time. Until then, take care. Peace.